Grove and CSP last year.
Mmm. That too. Load it up with peppers and onions, Raj.
Why would you ruin it with peppers?
Here we go. Good morning and welcome to Inside High School Sports. I'm your host, Tony Caligiuri, along with Frank Wolf and Francis Beck, Western New York Athletics, and Roger Weiss, our resident troublemaker.
Morning, y'all.
How you guys
Especially
doing?
you, DK.
Derek Kramer producing.
Buff State alum.
There we
Blake
go.
Dad.
We are joined by Kurt and Zach Fisher. We're going to talk a little bit, some little football and coaching in a little bit. News and notes. Let's start that off with a recap of the Kensington Lions All-Star Game.
Yeah, was it Wednesday night at Williamsville South High School? The best of the best came out between the North and the South, the football players. The South won 36-0, kind of a boring game. But, it was a great event overall. Got to see a lot of great people. Got to honor these kids one last time. I would say it was the Joe Andreessen show. I don't know if you remember from the season, they had that package for him at Lancaster where they put him at quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
They did that about 50% of the time. They had him and this kid Jordan Hill who was at Timon, who was about the same size as Andreessen, and no one could bring him down.
That's not fair. Don't get me laughing. You have to excuse me. I think I'm suffering either a cold or sinuses. You're going to get me going. I'm going to crack up and lose it. Go ahead.
No, I just, it was a pretty one-sided game. They were dominant. I can't help it, though. Every time I go to Will South, two things come to mind, Anthony.
What's that?
When Joey Licata was a sophomore, they played Sweet Home when Casey Kaz was a senior at quarterback. Well, how those two went on to.
Yeah, they did okay.
That was Joey's coming out game, but boy, I could just remember the balls going through the air. And then, of course, the other one I remember was a playoff game against Grand Island.
Never forget it.
In the rainstorm.
The kick.
First of all, some kid from Grand Island who probably didn't kick a field goal all year, in the pouring rain, kicks a 43-yard field goal. And back then, it wasn't artificial turf. It was a
And the ball was placed in a puddle.
pasture. And then, of course, was it the last play of the game? Where Joey throws a nice pass headed for Marcapola, and Marcapola was tackled by the
Mugged.
defender before the ball got there.
Tackle or mugged, either or works.
No call.
No.
So, yeah, those are always my memories of Will South, but what a gorgeous facility. Anthony, you would not believe it there.
Oh, I can imagine. Congratulations to Will South. Let's see. Anything news and notes?
Wait a second.
Wow,
Wait a second.
wow,
Are
wow,
we
wow.
going to say anything with the Lions Club game?
I thought we were just talking about it.
Well, it was a wonderful night. Milt Dickerson did a fantastic job.
I'm glad you decided to jump in, by the way.
Thanks. Milt Dickerson, fabulous. The cheerleaders was a great way to. I'm glad that they were included. It was a nice wrinkle that they threw in there. That was well received.
Yeah, big thanks to Tonawanda coach Jessica Haskell for that, putting that together.
Jack Cruiser did a great job along with Paul Peck calling the game, doing the PA stuff. Jack sang the national anthem. And after we all went to Denny's and Roger got an All-American Great Slam or something like that.
No,
Straighten them up, Raj.
I got the senior omelet.
What's a senior omelet?
Well, they have an over 55 menu at Denny's, a senior, senior menu,
I'm still not eligible.
no, and
Only not far, Vogel.
you wouldn't be satisfied if every one of the items on the senior menu page wouldn't fill you up. But, yeah, and, the waitress was very flattering. She said, I might have to ask you for proof of age. So she didn't think I was 55. I was impressed.
Yeah.
Guys, you're gonna make me lose it here.
You think that's big? Jack ordered page 3.
Page 3?
Really? I mean, they were bringing him his, I don't know, 3 different waitresses and servers had to carry out what he was eating.
Wow.
And you've seen Jack, he's like a beanstalk.
Yeah, well, now I'm proud of Jack. Good job.
But
I
great.
like that. Jack is like a beanstalk. That's good. Jack and the beanstalk?
He's
Yeah.
just realizing it
realizing
right now.
it, you
Oh my God.
Okay.
Oh, that wasn't by design? Oh my.
I'm just a
Wow.
Just goes to show
Thank you very
Anthony,
much. Try the veal.
Better to have luck than brains, you know what I mean?
Good
genius.
job.
Public high school education at its finest.
All right.
The American Legion tournament's kicking off today in Utica, New York. A team from Depew representing Buffalo. They get started at 5 p.m. today. Either WNY Athletics or FromTheTransferLevel.com. We'll have some updates there if you
Cool.
want to follow along. Section 6, Tim Slade, Beth Faley, Pauline Turskay, take a bow. You are the Section 6 Executive Director Office of the Year for New York State. A big award.
Outstanding.
Tim was presented with a nice trophy last night. Jace Johnson decommitted from Wagner. He is now headed to Middle Tennessee on a basketball full ride. He told us this last Friday. He signed the paperwork, but we were sworn to secrecy. We told Jace we would let him announce it when he was good and ready. So, but Jace, congratulations. That's big news, I guess, for Western New York.
Yeah.
Coach Sal Casatino, Niagara Falls, getting a heck of a basketball player with the closing of Niagara Catholic.
Francis broke this story. He's been following up with the Bradburys, and is it Carlos Bradbury Jr. heading to Niagara Falls along with
Jalen Bradbury.
Jalen Bradbury? How did I get those two mixed
I
up?
don't know.
It's father and son, isn't it?
I know, but one's a legend and one's working his way there. And Francis, what's the other story you broke this week?
What is the other
You
story?
broke another story.
Did you fix it after you broke it?
Well, the big dogs in town didn't give him any credit, but Francis broke that Bradbury story. We broke the Casey Kelly story weeks before that.
Well, you guys are doing an outstanding
They'll
job.
catch up to us sooner or later.
Someday.
Maybe one day they'll give us some respect.
How about big props to Tyler Dottie of St. Joe's going to UB? I've watched some video of him recently. Kurt, have you seen any of the Jim McNally videos on blocking and how we get underneath there, using the hips come forward underneath the pads and going up? And I was watching Tyler executing this to perfection, doing real nice with left hand, throw the guy away with the right hand lead. Excellent technician.
Yeah, absolutely, McNally, he's a character,
Oh,
when he
that's-
goes on a coach's clinic or anything like that, he is, so charismatic, and, he's definitely
He has
he's
a way
character.
with words.
Yes, let's just say that,
Yeah.
he really does.
Anthony, it's easy for guys McNally's side to do that. He's so small to get down low and get up. But how about people my size or Frank's size or even your size? It's not that easy.
No, it's not.
Let's have a demonstration.
He's fantastic.
You first.
He does such a great job with those clinics. If you ever get a chance to catch Coach McNally, I highly recommend it. But you can tell that Tyler's definitely benefited from that type of technique. So congratulations and good luck to him. Anything else for news and notes? I have to tell you guys that I'm a nervous wreck this morning. So if I sound out of sorts, it's because we have a playoff game today. We won our house championship at Cayuga Little League. My next team, Coach Sal. It's an amazing feeling. I haven't been a part of a championship team since my Shoshone Redskins in 1977. So that's going back a few years. But today we play Midtown at Hyde Park, 4 o'clock. Winner plays the winner of this morning's game. That game will be held Monday for the city championship. If those of you not familiar, what Niagara Falls does, they get all the little leagues together, the house teams, and they play for an overall city championship. So this is very exciting. Plus, we've already started football. In fact, after the show, I have to go and get equipment for Nick. We have equipment handout today, so it's crazy. And Coach, I was just telling you during the break, I'm recovering from surgery and I'm out there trying to demonstrate technique and stuff like that. Wait a minute, my body's not quite responding. It's difficult, but it's a lot of fun.
Absolutely.
All right, let's get into talking this is something that we've wanted to do for a couple of weeks now. Anybody that's followed high school football for any period of time has known about Kurt Fisher and the amazing job he did at Maple Grove. How many state championships?
We had 2 in football.
2 in football,
Couple in
always in the
basketball.
playoffs, always in the hunt. I don't think I can remember, Raj, you could correct me if I'm wrong, I don't recall them ever having a losing season.
No losing season, no, it's, well, for how many years was it, either, Maple Grove or Randolph, that was always the game of the year.
Right.
And, Kurt, I think you still remember I don't know what year it was, it's a few years back, the 35-34 overtime win, I believe it was at Randolph, when, Coach Slater rolled the dice in the second overtime, went for 2 instead to win the game instead of 1 to tie the game, and was it, Secchi that broke up the pass in the end zone, I believe?
It was. It was actually, no, Andrew Braley, broke up that pass.
That's right, Secchi played only, Tom wasn't a D-back, I take that back, but it's,
Right.
what year, what are we talking, like 07, 06?
It was 07, I believe.
Just memorable seasons
Oh, yeah,
after, and it didn't matter whether you guys were in C or D, you guys went out there and win. It's kind of like equivalent to Olean in basketball. You see Olean would win in multiple classes, and Maple Grove did the same thing.
And to show you what impact that has on Class D football down there in the southern tier, I believe the 50-50 raffle was over $1,000 for the winner of that game.
Wow. That's outstanding.
Absolutely, yeah.
And for years I've been talking about this on this program. Some high schools have a football team, others have a program. And what Kurt had at Maple Grove was a program. And for you athletic directors out there and people in school boards and whatnot, you want to know the difference between a football team and a program. A program is a winner year in and year out. They have good numbers in the weight room. If your school isn't loading up the weight room in the off season, you're doing something wrong. If you're not participating in 7-on-7s, you're doing something wrong. If you don't have good morale and good teamwork going on, if you have kids fighting with each other, you just have a team. You just have a football team. You don't have a program. And Kurt built a program at Maple Grove, and now he's off to Chautauqua Lake / Westfield. Kurt, what happened?
There were a variety of things that happened. It was a sad situation. Sometimes just a few people. I can just go back. This stuff started about 3 to 4 years ago. There were a certain group of people that just started to dislike me and mostly dislike my son. The vehement that some of them had for Zach was so apparent. I mean, the kid was attacked on the sideline by a grandfather. He was yelled at from the stands during basketball. Another group, he alienated Zach. He pulled his longtime friends away from him. And he just kept getting cast aside. And this was definitely, I was looking over my shoulder the last 3 years. It wasn't a way for me to be coaching anymore, and it was just so hard. They were aware of it, the administration was aware, and the athletic director, they tried to do some things, I know, but eventually it all culminated in what happened.
Why do you think they were going after Zach?
There was a dislike for him. I don't know if it was just because he was my son, if they didn't like the way he acted on the field, if they didn't like that. It was just, it was really quite appalling.
To me, it's showing no respect towards you. And that's what bothers me.
That's the way I felt. I'm not gonna lie about that. That was, I tried to do all the right things, I tried to help people. They were ill, and I tried to bring them in and have them part of the program, to watch film and help out. And those are the people that kind of turned on me towards the end, and I would get these notes about how, tell Zach not to do this, tell Zach not to do that. But I have one great guy on my staff that told me something. He's been a volunteer for a long time. This year I hired him full time, and he told me when he was coaching his kid, I think he said his boy was about a sophomore, and he said, you've gotta get off of Zach. He said, you're way too hard on him. He said, I was doing that with my son, and my son came to me and he was crying. He's like, why me? Why do you yell at only me? And you know, when he said that, it put a lot of perspective. I was so hard on my son, it was incredible.
Because it's, you know, if you've never coached your kid, you want, and it comes from love. You love your son so much, and I have this with my relationship with my son Nicholas. But I have a rule where I don't coach him. The guys I coach with. When I signed him up first, I said, look, my son's not gonna listen to me in the first place, so I need you to coach him. And it's been like that for football and baseball. And they say the same thing, their son's not gonna listen to them, so I coach him. But we have so much love for our kids, and we wanna see our kids excel. I get mad when Nick doesn't listen to me at home, when I'm trying to teach him technique, or I'm trying, no, Dad, I don't feel like it right now, SpongeBob is on. You know, it drives me crazy. Or I'm watching a football game, you know, we were watching,
You try to interrupt your son when SpongeBob is on.
Not normally,
You're
'cause I
at
love
fault.
SpongeBob,
You're
but-
at fault. It's not Nicholas, it's you.
I agree. And, you know, when we were watching something that was showing, college players working out, and there was something on foot working on, and I tried to get Nick to watch with me. No, Dad, I don't feel like it. I got mad. And my wife says, you can't do that.
You just have to recognize when your son or your daughter is ready to embrace athletics.
They have to want to learn.
Exactly.
They have, now, like, this year, last night after practice, Nick said to me, he says, look, Dad, I want to earn it this year. I want to play. This is my second year on the Cobras. I want to show that I can play. And Nick has always been shy of contact. You know, he wasn't he didn't like it. Now this year, I've seen a little bit of change in him. And I told him, I says, this year, if I don't see you being able to protect yourself, to be physical, aggressive enough to handle yourself, you're not going to go to the next level. I don't want him getting hurt.
Yeah, I mean, that's a concern for any parent, right?
But so I understand what Coach is saying, you know, you getting hard on your kid. Now, Frank, your son's too young right now, and if you should coach him in baseball, you know, and I hope you put this stuff in your mind that, yeah, you want him to, you know, throw that ball correctly, swing the bat correctly, and if they don't do it, or if they don't have the talent to live up, you know, some of the other kids are gonna be better, and you have to recognize that.
One fault is, for example, if the main reason you're playing your son at quarterback is because he is your son, there's one thing that you could do that is worse, believe it or not, is not playing him because he's your son. Even if you know in your mind, and half the team knows in their mind, that he is the best there. But, oh, I'm not gonna put it in because I don't wanna deal with the pressure of what the other parents are gonna say. If that's the case, you got one of two options, in my opinion. Either you play him or you step down and let somebody else coach until he's done. Cause that is.
It's tough, Raj.
I don't doubt that for a minute, but I mean.
Because then you're gonna sit there and you're gonna second guess yourself as a coach. And I'm sure there's many times you sat there thinking, all right, is he the one for this job? Should he be? Is there anybody on the roster that should be? Am I being perceived as being the favorite? For years, we hear the horror stories of people, well, the only reason why he's the starting pitcher is because he's the coach's son. You know, and, you know.
But it's a two-way street.
It is, and so it's a fine line to walk.
At the end of the day, the coach makes the decision, the head coach makes a decision on who is where and when. You gotta allow your other coaches to get him ready and in positions where he can succeed. And you talk to your staff.
That's
You know,
the big part,
The
talking.
head coach has to talk to his staff.
How many conversations did you have with your staff about, you know, putting the lineup together?
Oh, I mean, the staff, you know, they thought I was too hard on Zach at time. They were always supportive of, you know, I let my staff, I'm a very open coach. I want my staff to disagree with me. I want them to make me better. If you have a bunch of coaches that are just gonna go along with everything you say,
You're not
how do
going
you get
anywhere.
better? So, you know, I have a defensive coordinator, he's probably the fieriest little guy in the world. You know, Dan Greco, he will tell me what's up, and that guy is, he has no fear. And, you know, I haven't had an ex-player that was probably one of the nicest boys I've ever coached, one of the most successful, and he was on the staff, and they were very supportive, of everything we were doing. I mean, we went to 2 state finals in a row, and I was still doing something wrong, that there was constant, you know, things being said. I had a college football coach sitting in our game at Tioga, game we honestly shouldn't have won last year. That team was bigger, stronger, faster, but we beat them. But he and his 2 daughters and his wife actually left early because they could not stand what they were hearing in that stands from our fans.
God.
Coach, I was at the CSP game last year, great game. I heard some things going around, but it wasn't like, I mean, this is eye-opening to us. When you stepped down, it was eye-opening to us.
It's a shock.
You always hear stuff going on in the bleachers, but not at this level. This is
It's
ridiculous.
insane. All right, we're gonna take a break, and when we come back, we're gonna talk more with Coach Kurt Fisher, now of Chautauqua Lake / Westfield, about what happened at Maple Grove and what's next. What's the future look like for Chautauqua Lake / Westfield? So we'll have all that and more. Don't forget all your Bills updates right here all day long on WGR Sports Radio 550. Jerry, along with Frank Wolf, Francis Beck from Western New York Athletics, Roger Weiss in studio, and we are joined by Kurt and Zach Fisher, now of Chautauqua Lake / Westfield, formerly of Maple Grove. During the break, we were talking with Coach about things going on and kind of philosophy towards building a high school program, and you mentioned it starts with the youth leagues. What a shock! I'm stunned. Tell me how much involved were you with, and how important is it to build your program starting with the youth?
I think that's where it all starts. I mean, I tried to make a point every year of going down. We would go down to they're usually started right now.
Right.
And we would make a point, either I would go, and last year and a few years, I got Greco to go down, our whole staff would go down, and they would work with those kids, for at least a week. I would try to show up as much as I can. Our games, I would make our varsity players go down when they were available, and we used to make tunnels for the kids to run out when they were announced, their alignments, or the lineups were announced, things like that to run through, and I wanted them to always feel that the varsity was there. I always felt, going back to when I was a kid, when I would have my helmet with me and I'd be able to watch a little bit of the varsity practice, those guys were like the NFL players to me.
They were heroes.
Yeah, absolutely, and I wanted those kids, because I think it's good both ways. When a kid actually feels like, wow, these little guys like me, and they accept that role, they become better people.
They become part of the community.
Absolutely, and then the little kids, like I said, they're looking up to these guys, and they can't wait to go to those games, and then we have a night every one game where we would announce all the players, for that team, and they would come onto our field before a big game or any game at all at the varsity. So I thought just those little things were the way to start things.
Not to mention, you're getting young kids excited about your program. I can't wait to play for Coach Fisher. This is going to be the greatest thing. Oh, in 2 years I'm in high school and I'm going to play for Coach Fisher. This is, school spirit. It develops all of that.
I definitely believe that. I wanted them to know who I was all the time. I wanted them to know that when they come up, that there's a guy that's going to care about me. And that's one thing I can say about my coaching career, that I'm no angel, honestly. I might have made mistakes, but there aren't many players that ever played for me that didn't know that I love them. I tell them all, I'm always there for them on, off the field, and if there's always a few, but I could say the majority. I loved coaching kids, and I want kids to succeed as parents, as be a great coach someday, go to college. I want them all to succeed, and I wanted those little kids to know that there's some big dummy up there that's gonna care about them when they wanna come up and play for me.
You're putting, you're saying exactly what I've been preaching for years, and how important that is, and it's, go ahead.
No, I'm waiting to bring Zach into the program.
Oh,
before we
okay.
get-
Let's talk to Zach a little bit first. Zach, first of all, you started out, like we were talking during the break, when you were 9 years old,
Yeah.
with your dad. Talk about what it's like playing for your dad.
It's fun, but I don't know, it's hard to deal with all the people. You're the coach's kid, you only play 'cause your dad's coach, but it's still fun though at the end of the day when we're winning, because then they don't say anything.
Even when your dad was being, as he said, harder on you than anybody else, how was it to process that?
I knew that he just wanted me to be the best, because I would do the same, but it was hard at first because you're getting yelled at from everybody, but then at the end of the day it's good.
How was it like at home?
Oh, fine. It didn't come back home. We were all good.
Would you feel that you have a closer bond with your dad because you were, that you played for him, and you
Yeah.
had that sports background with him?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure.
'Cause I look at it with my son, and I think that that's one of the keys to the relationship I have with him. My wife was getting on my case last week or the week before about how much time I'm spending with coaching. And I said, "You want me to give it up? You want me to stop coaching?" And I said, "Nick, would you be all right if I wasn't your coach anymore?" And he lost it. No, Daddy's got to be out there. We're a team, and I think when you have a father and son relationship like that, that's an amazing thing to have. That's a team right there, just unto itself, father and son. They're very special. So did it bother, let me ask you this then, obviously it bothered you hearing the stuff behind the scenes that was going on.
Yeah, yeah. When he first stopped coaching in Maple Grove, for like the first 4 games of basketball, I came home from school, said he couldn't coach, and it didn't hit me till we played, because we played Olean that night. And then after that, it just hit me and the whole team, and we just fell apart as a team. Then he asked me if I wanted to stay there, I couldn't do it without him, so we moved to Stock Lake.
It's very difficult, and, you know, you're a brave young man, and, you know, obviously you're learning from a great man. Go ahead, Brian.
Excuse me.
That was a great point, by the way.
I wanna bring in my favorite, Fisher, by the way, we haven't mentioned her yet, Lori Joe, and the reason I wanna bring.
Is he angling for food again?
No,
Okay.
no, it's way above that.
No, the reason I ask, I can hear it from your side and others, how much impact, if that's the correct word, or pressure would be put on from the spouse of a coach who is coaching his son? You know, is there some way, you know, why aren't you playing, you know, and I know Lori Joe wouldn't do it, believe me. But, so I'm just gonna use her as the example. Kurt, how come you're not playing Zach on every down, or how come you're not, I have to say every down, cause you know, Zach's on the field offensively all the time, I don't.
Well, I'm
you play
sure she
D-back
trusted
as
his,
well?
Yeah.
I'm sure she trusted his judgment and just went with whatever he said.
Okay, I'm using her as the example.
Just my opinion.
Oh,
The example for parents in general. If you think they're all like that, you're dreaming. There's gotta be spouses out there that, you know, I don't know if it's gonna affect the marital relationship overall, but why aren't you playing Junior? Why, how come he's not the quarterback? How
Or-
come he's not the starting pitcher? How come he's not the point guard?
Or, why are you so tough on him? That's the other angle.
Yeah.
I definitely got that from her a lot. She was right, you know, I was very, some of the things you said earlier, you know, sometimes I would yell at him, yelling at other kids, trying to say what I wanted to say to them. I would be at Zach. It was terrible at times, you know, and he says it didn't come home. It didn't come home because he didn't say anything, but Lori, my wife, definitely knew things, and I got some chewings from her, you know, and I hated to admit she was right, you know, so I never did. But no, no.
Spoken like a true husband.
But she was right a lot of times, and the thing about her is that she took an absolute beating through this. The things that this one gentleman was saying about my wife to get at me were just unbelievable. The one guy that started this whole thing, talking to kids that were playing for me going into our last year's season, and she took it pretty bad for a while. They were but you know, she got through it. She's a lot tougher than me. And when all this was occurring, any time that I talked about I need to get away, and she said, "Oh no, you're not leaving until he's done. You understand? You are not leaving until he's done." You know, so she made me, I mean, I had to keep working through things, and I realized it, but she was definitely a rock through the whole thing.
Outstanding.
Coach, during the last break, a prominent coach in our area sent me a private text message, and I'm just gonna share with what this coach put, what they sent me. They said, when the coach's kid is superior to other athletes, players on the team, other parents can't always handle it. So, I think that's the case here.
Great point.
I think that's the case here. Because I've been to a number of Maple Grove games, whether it was at the stadium, playing for Section 6 championships, or last year down at CSP, or down in your barn, where they have that taco in a bag thing.
Don't get me going on food, I'm hungry already.
So they're playing CSP. Zach was a dominant player you caught a touchdown early in the first quarter, had a couple of nice catches. So he definitely deserved to be, you know, he deserved a prominent role in that offense.
I think, you know, if you're a parent and you're logical, you sit out there and you watch a game unfold. If you see a kid, he's making the plays, he's doing everything, and he happens to be the coach's son, all right, he's the coach's son. But he's adding to the team. Now, I can see if you throw him in at quarterback and he couldn't hit the broadside of a barn from 5 yards away, all right, we've got a problem. We could talk about that. I can see where you're coming from, but he produced. I mean, the stats, the numbers, they don't lie.
Kurt, we know this happened to Zach quite a bit. I hope, but I suspect otherwise, this didn't also trickle down to Megan.
Actually, she started getting some terrible comments about, and during, when she was playing softball for Maple Grove, I was the coach there too, and she started.
That was
the
as an
only
8th
reason-
grader, Anthony.
Yeah, and the only reason you got brought up to varsity for playoffs is because
Because
your
your
dad,
dad.
you this, that, and the other thing, and then it kept.
That's pure
going,
jealousy.
And the
It's
only
simple as-
reason,
That's all it is. It's jealousy.
and the only reason she played in ninth grade at Chautauqua Lake is because her dad wasn't the coach. And oh, by the way, she's getting a state championship ring, Anthony.
Very nice.
How many 7th and 8th graders, though, play on varsity softball teams or varsity soccer teams? There's a number of them throughout Western New York. Just
I wish I had a
no less
dollar
than
for every
50.
time Roger tells me, Tony or Anthony, he's only in 7th grade. She's only in 8th grade.
There's no less than 50 girls that aren't even in high school yet playing for their varsity teams. And not just playing.
They're starting.
They're starting. They have prominent roles.
And putting up huge numbers. They're leaders.
Anthony, how crazy is this? I can go to a 14 and under softball game at Aunt Rosie's and bump into a half a dozen girls who've already received their major letter playing varsity softball. 14 and under.
Francis, who was the girl from Kenji, the goaltender? She was in 7th grade and she was.
Or hockey.
Yeah,
Yeah,
one of
Ellie
the best-
Simmons, 7th grader, and she almost won a playoff game as a 7th grader for facing one of the top teams in the league and just stopping 40 shots.
Now, her dad might not have been the head coach, but, there's room for 7th and 8th graders. So for your daughter to be playing and anyone to giving you any kind of grief or crap over that is just pure jealousy.
Let me ask this: does this come from? Is this? And I'm not trying to be disrespectful at all. Please, don't take it that way. Is this small town thinking?
Yeah, I would say so, definitely. I mean, because you hear everything in a small town. I still, it's just a nightmare, and I think it was a lot of small town thing that went on. But I'm gonna be honest with you, 95% of those people, the love for our family and that was way above what had happened. It's just that those few were strong enough to get into the ear of some people, and I believe that started to trickle down effect. And then, like I said, 3 to 4 years ago, this all started to happen.
And it only takes a few voices. I see it in Little League. We had parents last year yapping on the sidelines, calling kids out. And I've mentioned these stories as part of our thing when we were talking about parents, coaches, and kids doing wrong in sports the last 3 weeks. And it drives me crazy, but it's only a few. But then when you go out and you talk to the supportive parents, and they make you feel better. And I know that there's got to be a lot of people, at least I'm imagining, in the Maple Grove area that are sick to death that Kurt Fisher is no longer their head coach.
It probably hasn't even hit him yet. It probably won't hit him until
Till
week 1.
till week 1, right?
Because, a lot of people don't live on the internet and on Facebook and things of that nature, so they may or may not know. I'm sure they've all read the newspapers and stuff, but it's not gonna truly hit them until they come out for their first game. Now, they're down in D, you're now in C, so you won't even have a chance to play them. I don't know who the new head coach is coming in. We're waiting for some feedback so we can get a preview ready, but I gotta imagine, can you imagine the shoes that this guy has to fill coming in? That's not a position I wanna be in.
No, not at all.
Don't you find it a little more, do you find it any more than coincidental? It started to happen just at the time that Zach was old enough to become a member of these teams. Think about it. It didn't happen until he was in 8th and 9th grade, and all of a sudden, the stuff hit the fan.
Yeah, then Coach Fisher was a hero and, better than Belichick, and now all of a sudden, he's not better than Kay Stevenson. It's absolutely ridiculous. All right, let's take a break. When we come back, we'll have more with Coach Fisher and Zach Fisher. Don't forget, keep it locked right here on WGR Sports Radio 550. Bills are in camp. In fact, they're in pads today, their first day of hitting, so you're going to want to hear updates all day long right here on WGR Sports Radio 550. of Inside High School Sports. Frank, there was something that we forgot to do during news and notes, and news like this is it's hard to take.
It's tough, Tony, yes. A 22-year-old Ryan Paul Leppo from the Hurdle North Park Youth Baseball League passed away earlier this week, just a couple of days ago. He's been with the Shoshone Park Little League since the age of 5. And then at age 13, he started umpiring in those games, and it's gonna be a very big loss for that community. You played in Shoshone,
I grew up in that park.
so you know how big that league is, and I'm sure the Flags will be at half-staff for the next few days at least, or hopefully longer. Survived by his parents, his brothers, and he was a competitive swimmer as well. And I believe he graduated from Tapestry High School. So our hearts and thoughts go out to his family. Just a tremendous loss, and only 22 years old, just shy of his 23rd birthday.
It's not right. It's just not right. So sorry to hear that. My thoughts and prayers are with everybody, with the family and within the social community there. As we mentioned, we're talking with Coach Fisher about what happened at Maple Grove. So, all right, now you're going to start a new chapter at Chautauqua Lake/Westfield. Is there anything that you're going to do differently now than you did at Maple Grove?
No, I'm going down to their midget program already. They've got a great guy running that program that's reached out to me, and we've talked already. So next week I'm going to try to spend some time with them down there. You just start to build a new program, and it's built, whether how you want to take it or not. But I tell my kids, I love them every day. I tell you, that's the most important thing. One of the things you never realize about kids one of the things I always did as a coach was during warm-ups, I would go around and hug each kid. And there would be some kids that would tighten up and they would pull away from you. And after a while, after 2 weeks, those kids, you're like running away from them for that hug. But sometimes those kids aren't getting those hugs at home. If you can be that guy to hug them, and it just makes you feel good. Football wins are awesome, but I'll tell you what, man, when you can make a kid feel loved, that's the most important thing to me.
Coach, you are preaching to the choir. I do that every practice. I do fist bumps. I give hugs. I make an effort every time is to do a one-on-one. And I think that's very important, establishing relationships. And I look back to this past summer, we got involved in baseball this year, and I would see, we're playing this team or that team, and one of our football kids, and one of the kids that I coached 2 years ago runs across the field to give me a hug. Coach, I can't wait to play for you this year. And that's, in developing those relationships is so important. You and I were discussing before the show, again, about how important it is for the varsity to be involved with the youth, because you're gonna know, especially you as an offensive coach, you're gonna see, okay, I've got a kid coming up that's got a cannon of an arm. I'm going to know that when he is in my program, I'm gonna gear my offense around that. Or I have a back that's got amazing speed and elusive abilities. I'm gonna have more run plays. So you have to know what you have coming up. You have to know if you have size coming up or if you don't, because there's different things you have to do as a coach. You can't sit there and just try to say, okay, we're gonna do this 4-4 stack defense year in and year out, no matter what. Well, if you don't have the personnel to run that defense, what are you doing? And it's so important to know that, and again, it goes to the relationships, like you said.
Yeah, I was very fortunate. I think that our staff has always done, over the 25 years, I thought we adjusted so well to what we had. We didn't run the same offense every year. If we didn't have the talent to run what we wanted to run, we would, take a step back and put something in new. I think that our staff has done a great job adjusting our offense to our kids and getting them to believe. Once they believe, you can do anything you want. But if they don't believe, they're not gonna win. So we had to get them to believe, and I think we've done that.
And in doing so, you get them excited about wanting to go to the weight room, about wanting to run, about wanting to participate in off-season activities. Percentage-wise, roughly, about how packed was your off-season program? Were the kids in the weight room?
Up to the last few years, it was usually we would get 50% of our kids at least in the weight room, but they would always come to the 7-on-7s. We'd always have good attendance there, and then we always did a week-long camp. We went to a college. It was at Alfred one time. Now it's at Hamilton. And there we're with Victor from New York. We have Raritan from New Jersey, Corning, who's an A, and Maine Endwell, if you remember that.
Huge.
Yeah.
So
Huge.
we were able to practice, we have been able to practice with them for a week, you know, and to be with those big, we brought 17 kids out this week. There were 70 from Victor, 80 from Raritan, New Jersey, you know, 65 from Corning, and another 72 from Maine Endwell. But we were 17 kids strong, man, and we went out and they have what they call a showcase, and I was so proud of our kids after just 3 days together. You know, and I think Zach could attest to the fact we had a darn good camp, and it was a great experience for all the kids there.
Zach, does that build team chemistry when you're doing stuff like that?
Yeah.
You get to
Yeah.
talking to kids that you don't normally talk to, or you know they might be not in your same grade or whatnot, and,
Yeah.
and you're able to talk and get inside and get to know. And when you get to that point, do you try playing harder for
Yeah.
because you have more respect and love for the players you're with?
Yeah, I was telling him last night that before camp, everybody was just like, "Oh, we're gonna be all right this year." After camp, we were all hanging out in the same room by the last night. We were all hanging out. We have a group chat now. We're all super pumped now. We all came together. The camp was good for us, so now everyone's pumped up.
When you have a team that is able to bond like that versus a team that doesn't get along, what happens?
That this team will surprise you. This team will be the type of team that'll go into the stadium and have an upset, you know, against Bennett. That was one of the greatest games I've ever been involved with, you know.
One of
it
the
was an
greatest games
upset.
I've ever
But
watched.
that was one because of, totally, I mean, our team was so solid, and nothing against Bennett, they were awesome. But we that night, I think the strength of us being together, even last year, we got smoked by Allegheny, Franklinville Allegheny, in the regular season. We went to the stadium, and there wasn't one kid, I believe, on our team that didn't think we could win. You know, and I think that that is because of love, it's because of family. You know, if families win championships, individuals will never win championships.
Boy, I hope some of you ADs and superintendents have been taking notes for the last hour. By the way, this show will be available online a little bit later on today. If you go to WGR550.com, audio on demand, you'll be able to watch. Take notes. Trust me, you're hearing from a legend right here, Kurt Fisher. The man knows what he's doing and has been doing such a great job for a long time. And Chautauqua Lake is really lucky to have you, Coach.
Thank you.
I just wanted to add to what Zach said, we're chatting and that, in our day, if we went to a camp and all that, we might meet somebody, make friends, but the only way we communicate back then, we'd have to pay some exorbitant fee to call them long distance, or else write a letter. And how many kids that age wanna write a letter?
No,
Now,
they just want to. They
now
just
they
want to
just
play
text it.
Fortnite all night.
Yeah, but now they just can text each other in what, 5 seconds? Hey, how you doing? What's going on and all that?
Zach, am I wrong about Fortnite?
No.
Okay,
Oh,
thank you.
There was a lot of Fortnite at camp. There was a lot of
But
It's the I said that's going to be the biggest reason why, and I saw this quote on Twitter. That's going to be the biggest reason why so many parents are going to be upset about playing time when the season starts is because of Fortnite. They're up all night. All right, that does it for us. We'll talk to you next week with more Inside High School Sports.
I can't even